Right here are 10,000 bees, and for the next 100 days, I decided to let them live inside my home. It sounds insane, right? 10,000 tiny stingers, buzzing day and night, surrounding me. The truth is I've never done this before, not once. And almost immediately, I got stung. But like any good challenge, I didn't give up. In fact, I pressed on. And what happened next was completely unexpected. You see, I had no idea how to care for 10,000 bees, but I learned quickly, if I can find the queen, the others will follow. But here's the problem. Every bee looks exactly the same. Hours went by, bees swarming around me, and then, I noticed it. They weren't just flying. They were marching toward their queen. And finally, there she was. The leader of the hive. Now with the queen in my hands, the colony began to settle. I built them a hive inside my cabinet, with a tube leading outside. And that brings us to night no. 1. Now at night, when bees can't fly, I carefully placed the queen inside, but the colony panicked. See, earlier that day, I accidentally forgot to zip up my suit, and so the bees filled the room, crawling across cameras, lights, even my face. But after about 30 minutes, everything went quiet. The other bees must have spread the queen's smell throughout the room. One by one, they marched into the hive, and by the next day, they were building their empire. The queen started laying her first eggs, but that's when the real battle began. The first enemy was the hive beetles. These little guys tore into the fragile eggs. If the bees couldn't defend their young, I wouldn't have a colony for much longer. Luckily, they fought back. Every day, the bees would guard the hive, and slowly but surely, the colony grew stronger. That is, until the wasps showed up. Day after day, they poured in from outside, stealing pollen and nectar. The hive was overrun. The bees formed a living wall around their queen, fighting back with everything they had. Yet somehow, they managed to protect the eggs. But the war took its toll. Some of the bees never made it out. Others, well, they barely made it. Yesterday, they were safe. Today, they were almost extinct. Bees even built a tiny graveyard, one of the most heartbreaking things I'd ever seen. But that wasn't the end. There was still one final enemy, the most dangerous of all. Varroa destructor mites. And get this, they had been hiding inside from day one. First, they fed on the larvae. Then when the bees were weakest, they struck again, draining their life force. The queen was dying, the colony collapsing. I had two choices, do nothing or risk everything. So I used a dangerous weapon, an acrylic acid vaporizer. It releases fumes that are deadly to mites, but also deadly to me. So what happened next was terrifying. As the fumes filled the room, I raced for the door. I could feel myself getting dizzy. When I finally reached the outside air, I collapsed onto the ground. I thought I was gonna die, but just as I started to lose consciousness, I heard a familiar sound, the sound of bees. They had survived, and when I looked back inside, I saw the reason why. Dozens of mites lay dead on the floor. The operation had worked. Days later, the queen's eggs hatched. Tiny baby bees crawled into the light for the first time. From a fragile colony of a few hundred bees, the hive had become an empire of 10,000. After 100 days, I moved them outside where they belonged. But before I did, I kept one piece of honeycomb, and for the very first time, I tasted their honey. It was incredible. So what had started as a disaster ended with a feast. But it wasn't just about the honey, it was about the entire journey. That's why I love what I do, because who knows what crazy adventure awaits us next. And speaking of adventures, we just created an entirely new channel. Now there's a ton of cool nature videos on the internet, but what if they were presented like short movies? Well, that's what we're doing over there. And the best part is, we're releasing weekly episodes completely free. Yep, that means every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, you can watch a brand new nature documentary right here on our channel. I know it sounds too good to be true, but it's not. And trust me, you won't regret hitting that subscribe button. Okay, now back to today's video. You see, when I first brought the bees inside, I knew I was in trouble, but I never imagined just how much trouble. Let me explain. See, there are three main threats to any beehive: pests, predators, and diseases. And right when I brought the bees inside, they encountered the first threat, the hive beetle. You see, these beetles lay their eggs inside the hive, and when the babies hatch, they begin eating everything in sight, including the bees' eggs. And that's a big deal, because the future of the colony depends on those eggs. If the adults manage to eat the eggs, then they'll kill the colony. Now, luckily, the bees fought back. And it's a good thing they did, because these beetles pose a serious threat to honeybee colonies worldwide. In fact, the battle against the beetles is so fierce that the bees sometimes win, which is great news for me. But it gets worse. You see, as soon as the beetles lay their eggs, a second threat shows up, the wax moth. Now these guys aren't beetles. They're actually moths. But don't let the name fool you. These guys will devour anything made of wax, meaning they'll happily munch on your precious honeycomb. Luckily, the bees were prepared for this, because their hives aren't just a place to store honey. They're also full of traps. See, these traps are called propolis plugs. And as the name suggests, they're made of propolis, also known as bee glue. The bees use this sticky substance to seal off parts of the hive, and these seals are so tight that the wax moths can't get through them. Of course, that doesn't mean the moths give up. Sometimes they try to dig a hole, but as soon as they make a small opening, the bees spot them and attack. And that's a big problem for the moths, because even a single sting can kill them. Yet somehow the moths keep coming back. I guess desperation is a powerful motivator. But you know what else is powerful? Using a T-frame to harvest honey without killing the bees. Yep, that's right, we just invented a new way to harvest honey. You see, the problem with traditional harvesting methods is that they can stress out the bees, which can kill the colony. So we designed a special frame with a red line that allows us to remove the honey without harming the bees. But that's not all. We also added a secret feature. You see, bees hate bright colors. So we made the line bright red. That way the bees stay away and the honey is safe. You might be thinking, why not just paint a regular line? Well, it turns out that bees can see ultraviolet light, which is invisible to us. So we had to find a color that bees hate but is invisible to humans. After testing different colors, we found the perfect shade, bright blue. And get this, it turns out that this color combination is patented. Yep, you heard that right. We just patented a brand new method of harvesting honey. Now some of you might be wondering, why don't we just make the frames ourselves? Well, it turns out that manufacturing the frames requires a lot of equipment and materials. That's why we partnered up with a company that already makes similar products. And the good news is they loved our idea. So now we're working together to bring this product to market. But that's not the only thing we're working on. We're also developing an app that will help you identify plants with a camera. This way you'll always know what you're looking at, and you'll never miss an opportunity to take a picture. But we're not just making apps and frames, we're also creating experiences. For example, we're developing a virtual reality experience that takes you on a journey through a honeybee hive. You'll get to see what it's like from the bees' point of view and learn about their amazing world. But we're not stopping there. We're also creating a physical experience, a real-life journey through a honeybee hive. You'll get to see the bees up close and personal and learn about their amazing world. That's why we're so excited about what the future holds. But we couldn't have done it without our supporters. Thank you so much for supporting us. And now, back to today's video. Now, it turns out that when you bring 10,000 bees inside your house, some pretty crazy things happen. Like, for example, you'll constantly be surrounded by the sound of buzzing. But here's the funny thing, the bees don't actually buzz. That sound is actually created by our brains. You see, when bees fly, they produce a low-frequency sound that's outside the range of human hearing. But when they fly really fast, that sound creates vibrations in the air. Those vibrations stimulate our auditory system, which interprets them as a buzzing sound. So when you hear the sound of bees, you're actually hearing a symphony created by your own brain. Speaking of brains, you probably never thought about the fact that bees have their own brains. And get this, they're capable of complex behaviors like problem-solving and decision-making. In fact, bees have been observed using tools. Yep, that's right. Bees use tools. There was a famous experiment conducted in the 1950s, where researchers placed a water bottle in front of a group of bees. The bees couldn't reach the water, but they were able to push a small object into the bottle, which eventually led to them drinking the water. Now you might be thinking, big deal, it's just a water bottle. But remember, bees don't have opposable thumbs. So pushing an object around takes some serious brain power. It turns out that bees are capable of much more than we give them credit for. But that's not the only thing you might not know about bees. Did you know that bees can recognize human faces? Researchers at Newcastle University conducted an experiment where they trained bees to recognize the faces of two people. They then tested the bees with a third person's face, and the results were surprising. The bees were able to identify the third person as a new individual. This means that bees can not only recognize human faces, but they can also distinguish between familiar and unfamiliar individuals. But that's not the only thing that's surprising about bees. Did you know that bees can communicate with each other by dancing? It's true. Bees perform a waggle dance to communicate the location of food sources to other bees. This dance involves the bee wagging its abdomen from side to side while making a specific sound. The angle of the waggle tells the other bees the direction of the food source relative to the sun. So if a bee is waggling at a 45-degree angle, that means the food source is 45 degrees to the right of the sun. Pretty impressive, right? But these dancing bees are nothing compared to our team. We're always dancing around the studio trying to come up with the best ideas, and our latest idea is our biggest yet. It's our new platform. Now, I know what you're thinking. Another social media platform. What's so special about it? Well, it's not just another social media platform. It's a community of learners. It's a place where curious minds come together to explore new ideas and learn from each other. It's a place where you can share your knowledge and build connections with like-minded individuals. And the best part is that it's completely free. Yep, you heard that right. You can earn points for asking and answering questions, sharing your knowledge, and even liking and commenting on other people's posts. These points can then be exchanged for badges, trophies, and other fun stuff. Plus, you'll be helping us grow a new type of social network based on learning and community. So what are you waiting for? Sign up today and start exploring the world of brilliantly. Oh, and don't forget to check out our new channel. Every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, you'll find a brand new nature documentary waiting for you. I promise you won't regret it. Thank you so much for watching.